Do you work or study better at certain times in the day while you fight off the sleep at others? Through the course of the day, we all have natural highs and lows of energy that can affect our alertness and ability to concentrate. Also, there are different people that function more efficiently at different times of day. In an educational setting, this can impact whether students are performing at their best during instructional and testing times. In addition, the time of day when academic subjects are being taught can affect student achievement. Normally, in elementary classrooms, academic core subjects such as reading and mathematics are taught during the morning hours of the day before lunch. But it is said that many of our younger students are their sharpest during the mid-afternoon. So why do we start school at such early times or hours of the day? Before I began to research about how the time of day affects students' learning in school, the information that I knew was very little. I knew from personal experiences that I was able to study more efficiently with adequate sleep, and I was able to retain more information during the early hours of the day. But I knew that students learned best and were more concentrated during the mid-afternoon. What I would like to know is, what time of day do students learn best? And more importantly, what can teachers do to help students study and learn efficiently during any time of the day? As a future educator, the topic of how the time of day affects students' learning in school concerns me for when I have a class and students of my own. It is important to me that they are successful in school and are able to be alert and have the ability to concentrate at multiple times of the day. As I began researching, I found an article titled, "Does Time of Day Instruction Impact Class Achievement?" by Amanda Weil and Gary Shoup. What I learned was that all humans have a circadian rhythm, a cycle that our bodies follow and go through naturally that control our sense of alertness, concentration, memory, and behaviors. Within the circadian rhythm, the physiological and biochemical changes express themselves in daily fluctuations affecting the time of day for learning and recall. In other words, there are different times in a day that these biological changes occur that affect our learning and ability to remember. Weil and Shoup's article also showed me that while we all have a circadian rhythm that fluctuates throughout the day, the left hemisphere of our brain is most dominant in the morning, which controls processing of data, short-term memory, and routine, while the right hemisphere is most dominant in the afternoon, which controls processing of visuals and long-term memory. So what does that actually mean for how it will affect one's studying? Weil and Shoup suggest that children who have difficulty with reading would perform better in the afternoon hours. That is because as children read, they are tuning into their right hemisphere to connect prior knowledge to comprehend the reading, and reading comprehension is a process relying on long-term memory. While soaking up this information, I decided to see for myself how time of day affected the students in Mrs. Lugo's second grade classroom. As I was observing her second grade students in the early morning, I noticed numerous children becoming restless, less concentrated, and having a hard time recalling the information for the material being covered. For example, one of Mrs. Lugo's students, JC, who is very bright and diligent with her work, was having a very hard time recalling how to figure out this math problem. As many strategies surround her, she replied by saying, "I just don't know how to do it. My brain feels tired." I took note of this, but asked her to try her best and to think of all the strategies posted around the room. But as I was observing Mrs. Lugo's students during the afternoon, I noticed that they were very engaged and concentrated on the material being taught. Many of her students that struggled in the morning began to shine in the afternoon. For example, Francesca was having a very hard time remembering how to solve an unknown factor during math time, which was in the morning. Since all of the students did not finish their math, Mrs. Lugo allowed for some students to finish their work in the afternoon, and it was like Francesca knew all of the work but just didn't want to do it. But I feel that was not the case. The right hemisphere of her brain was not awake or able to recall that long-term memory that she had stored away. After observing, I just gave me initiative to find out more. That was when it hit me. who better to observe than myself? I thought of ways that I can conduct an experiment to attest the best times for my own studying, and I created a memory game. The memory game consisted of me memorizing the cards in a separate time for about 3 days. Then I would lay out the cards and play them once in the morning, the afternoon, and the evening. As I woke up at 6 a.m. to play my memory game, I thought I had made a mistake by making myself the person who does all of the work. But I went on and played my game. With there being 15 pairs of cards, I finished the game within 40 minutes with many trial and error. Later, in the afternoon, I left my cards exactly as they were and I finished the game in about 25 minutes. That was almost half the time it took in the morning. Lastly, I played the game after a long night at work, and still to my surprise, the game only took me 35 minutes to finish. I did this for about a week, every single day. During the morning time, my results concluded that I had a difficult time memorizing where the cards were because I was trying to recall my long-term memory. Although I had been doing this for more than a week, I had difficulty recalling that side of my brain that was not yet awake during my circadian rhythm. During the afternoon, I went at the memory with ease and began to flip the cards over like I already knew where they were and how they were laid out. My brain was able to recall that long-term memory that I was searching for. During the evening, I had trouble along with some ease with where the cards were. This allowed me to get a steady time of always being in between the morning and afternoon times. Ultimately, I learned a lot more about how the time of day can affect one's studying and learning. I learned that there is a cycle called the circadian rhythm that helps one's brain with all of the processes that it needs to get throughout the day. I also learned that when you first wake up, the left hemisphere of your brain is most dominant and it starts your day with short-term memory, routine, as well as processing of data or information. Later throughout the day, I learned that the right hemisphere begins to recall visual information and long-term memory. But some things I didn't learn are, does everyone do better in the afternoon than in the morning? Are all humans the same when it comes to afternoon being the best time to study and learn? Throughout the upcoming school semester, I plan to use what I have learned and observed in my own practice by continuously observing others and researching articles with the information about how time of day affects one's studying and learning. I will journal and write my own experiences down and continue to research the best time of day for all students to make it aware and known to others. I hope my efforts have helped children and others understand that time can really make a difference in learning and to help everyone familiarize themselves with their own circadian rhythm.